The great chamber floated in the darkness of space, a massive structure built by civilizations older than human memory. Inside, 12 races sat in a perfect circle. These were the elders of the galaxy, species that had ruled the stars for 50,000 years. They had seen empires rise and fall. They had ended wars that burned entire solar systems. They believed they knew everything worth knowing. Ambassador Catherine Chen stood in the center of the circle. She was human, and her people had only joined the galactic community 200 years ago. By the standards of the elder races, humans were children, babies playing with toys they barely understood. "The data is clear," said the Archon of the Vrel, a creature that looked like blue crystal given life. Its voice echoed without sound, speaking directly into the minds of everyone present. "The Void Swarm will reach the Outer Rim in 6 months. Mathematical analysis shows a 99.7% probability of total extinction if we engage." Catherine looked at the hologram floating above the floor. It showed a dark mass moving through space, consuming everything in its path. The Void Swarm had destroyed 16 galaxies before reaching theirs. No one knew where it came from. No one knew how to stop it, so we run? Catherine asked. Her voice was steady, but anger burned beneath the surface. "We abandoned 50 worlds without even trying to fight?" "We preserved the galactic civilization," another elder spoke. This one was from the Keltharan species, tall and thin with 4 arms. "The core worlds can be defended. The Outer Rim cannot. This is logic, not cowardice," Catherine wanted to scream. Earth was in the Outer Rim. 50 billion human beings lived on planets scattered across that region. The Council was asking her to abandon them all. "We can fight," she said. "Pool our resources. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier. Make a stand at the defensive line we've already built." "Your species thinks war solves everything," the Vrel said. There was no malice in its voice, only a cold statement of fact. "You've been in space for 400 years. We've been here for 50 millennia. We know when a fight cannot be won." The vote was swift. 11 races voted to evacuate to the galactic core. Only humanity voted to fight. The decision was made. "The Council will begin immediate evacuation procedures," announced the Keltharan. "All races are advised to abandon Outer Rim territories. Those who remain do so at their own risk." Catherine felt something break inside her chest. Not hope. Humans didn't give up hope easily. It was her faith in the Council, in the grand civilization she had believed in since she was a child. "You're cowards," she said quietly. The word fell into the chamber like a stone into still water. Silence followed. The elders did not get angry. They had evolved past such primitive emotions, or so they claimed. "We are practical," the Vrel responded. "We survive. That is what matters." "And what about the 50 worlds you're leaving behind? What about the billions of people who can't evacuate in 6 months? Do they not matter?" "They matter less than the survival of galactic civilization," the Keltharan said. "This is unfortunate but necessary." Catherine looked around the circle. She saw species that had lived for thousands of years, beings with technology that seemed like magic, races that had solved problems humanity still struggled with. And not one of them would fight for those who couldn't fight for themselves. "Then humanity withdraws from the Council," Catherine said. This caused a ripple of reaction. Several elders leaned forward. Even beings beyond emotion found this surprising. "You cannot survive alone," the Vrel warned. "Without our technology, our support, your species will face the swarm with primitive weapons." "We'll face it with our weapons," Catherine replied. "And we'll face it standing up, not running away." She turned and walked toward the exit. Behind her, she heard the Keltharan speak once more. "Humanity is expelled from the Galactic Council effective immediately. All trade agreements are void. All technology transfers are cancelled. You have made your choice." Catherine didn't look back. She kept walking until she reached her ship. Only when the door closed behind her did she allow herself to feel the full weight of what had just happened. Earth was alone. Humanity was alone. And the darkness was coming. She opened a communication channel to Earth. Admiral Marcus Webb appeared on the screen. He was an old soldier with gray hair and eyes that had seen too much death. "They abandoned us," Catherine said simply. Webb was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded. "How long do we have?" 6 months until the swarm reaches Earth's defensive perimeter. "Then we have 6 months to prepare," Webb said. His voice carried no fear, only determination. "We've faced extinction before. We're still here." Catherine managed a small smile. This was why she loved her species. They were stubborn and foolish and refused to accept the impossible. "Send word to all human colonies," she ordered. "Full mobilization. Every ship, every weapon, every person who can fight. We're going to war." "What about the other abandoned species?" Webb asked. Catherine pulled up a star map. It showed 50 worlds marked in red, all scheduled for abandonment. Most were already evacuating, but a very few, were still broadcasting defiance. "Send them a message," Catherine said. "Tell them Earth stands with anyone willing to fight. We might die, but we won't die running." Webb saluted. The screen went dark. Catherine looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, the darkness was coming. The elder races were fleeing. The great civilizations were hiding, but humanity would stand and fight, because that's what humans did. 6 months passed like a held breath. Earth transformed from a peaceful world into a war machine. Every factory ran day and night. Ships that once carried cargo now bristled with weapons. Civilians trained for combat. Children learned to survive in emergency shelters. The entire solar system became a fortress. Admiral Marcus Webb stood on the bridge of the battleship Defiant, watching Neptune through the view screen. This was the outer edge of human territory, the first line of defense. Behind him stretched a fleet of 300 ships. It wasn't enough. Intelligence reports said the swarm traveled with 300,000 bioships, each one capable of tearing through a human vessel like paper. The math was simple. Humanity would lose. "Sir, we're detecting spatial distortions at the edge of the system," reported Lieutenant Chen, no relation to the ambassador. The young officer's hands shook slightly as she read the data. It's them. Webb had fought in 3 wars during his career. He'd seen friends die. He'd given orders that sent thousands to their deaths. But he had never felt fear like this. The swarm wasn't just an enemy. It was annihilation given form. "All ships to battle stations," he ordered, "and send the message." The message was simple. 3 words that would be broadcast on every frequency, in every language, to every corner of the galaxy. Earth still stands. The void swarm emerged from dark space like a wound in reality. The bioships were massive, organic things that pulsed with sick purple light. They moved in perfect coordination. A single organism with 300,000 bodies. They had consumed 16 galaxies. Earth would be nothing to them. "Open fire," Webb commanded. The human fleet unleashed everything they had. Nuclear missiles streaked through the void. Railguns fired metal slugs at a fraction of light speed. Energy weapons burned hot enough to melt asteroids. For a moment, the darkness was lit up with human fury. The swarm barely slowed down. Bioships absorbed the nuclear blasts and kept coming. Railgun slugs punched through their hulls and the wounds healed in seconds. Energy weapons scorched their flesh and new flesh grew to replace it. They were designed to fight advanced civilizations, species with weapons based on complex physics and elegant mathematics. They weren't designed to fight humans. "Sir, they're ignoring our main fleet," Lieutenant Chen reported. "They're trying to move around us." Webb smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. "Good. That means they think we're not a threat. Let's teach them otherwise. All ships execute plan desperate measure." The human fleet broke formation and charged directly at the swarm. Every captain knew what this meant. They weren't trying to win. They were trying to slow the enemy down, to buy time for Earth to prepare better defenses. The first ships to make contact were the destroyers, small, fast vessels crewed by volunteers. They fired their weapons until the guns ran dry, then kept flying forward. When their ammunition was gone, they used the ships themselves as weapons, ramming into the bioships at full speed. The swarm had never encountered this tactic before. Their hive mind analyzed the data and found it illogical. Why would a species waste resources on inefficient attack methods? Why would they sacrifice valuable ships and crew for minimal damage? They didn't understand that humans fought with more than logic. They fought with rage and desperation and love for the homes they protected. "The Mars Defense Fleet is reporting heavy losses," Lieutenant Chen said. Her voice cracked. "Admiral Peterson is requesting permission to fall back." Webb closed his eyes. Peterson commanded 80 ships and 15,000 crew. If they retreated, the swarm would reach Mars in 3 days. If they stayed and fought, they would all die. "Tell Peterson," Webb said slowly, "that Mars needs 3 more weeks to evacuate. Ask him if he can buy us that time." There was a long pause. Then Peterson's voice came through the comm. "We can give you 3 weeks, sir. Mars Defense Fleet will hold the line." "I'm sorry," Webb whispered. Don't be sorry, Peterson replied. Just make sure those bastards remember us. The communication ended. Webb watched on the tactical display as 80 ships positioned themselves in the swarm's path. They would fight for 3 weeks with no hope of survival. They would fight because that's what humans did. Dr. Yuki Tanaka sat in her laboratory on Earth, surrounded by screens displaying data about the swarm. She hadn't slept in 48 hours. Coffee and determination kept her moving. There has to be a weakness, she muttered, scrolling through biological scans. Everything has a weakness. The swarm was a hive mind, millions of organisms connected through quantum entanglement. That should have made them invincible. Perfect coordination, instant communication, no confusion or hesitation. But Yuki had studied biology her entire life, and she knew that perfect systems always had flaws. She found it at 3 a.m. on a Tuesday. A small anomaly in the quantum frequency that connected the swarm's consciousness. It was barely noticeable, a tiny fluctuation that appeared whenever the hive mind processed complex information. That's it, she breathed. That's how we kill them. If they could disrupt that frequency, they could break the connection between the swarm's organisms. The hive mind would collapse. The bioships would become confused, disorganized. They would still be dangerous, but they would be mortal. She called Ambassador Catherine Chen immediately. Catherine had spent the last 6 months coordinating with the abandoned worlds that chose to fight. Several species had sent what few ships they had to join Earth's defense. I found their weakness, Yuki said without preamble. But there's a problem. There's always a problem, Catherine replied tiredly. What is it? To disrupt the frequency, we need to detonate a harmonic resonator inside their fleet. Right in the middle of their formation. Catherine understood immediately. A suicide mission. Yes, the ship that delivers the weapon won't come back. There was silence on the line. Then Catherine spoke, her voice hard as steel. Build the weapon. We'll find volunteers. 3 weeks later. As Mars fell and the swarm pushed deeper into the solar system, a message went out across the human fleet. Volunteers needed for Operation Last Dawn. No one who goes will come back. Within an hour, 10,000 people had signed up. Admiral Webb looked at the list of names and felt something break in his chest. These were mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters, children barely old enough to serve. They all knew they would die. They all volunteered anyway. Prepare the fleet, he ordered. We're going to teach the darkness what it means to fight humanity. The asteroid belt had become humanity's last major defensive line. Every rock larger than a house now held automated weapons. Every piece of ice contained sensors. The belt was a maze of death, designed by engineers who knew they were building their own graves. Admiral Webb walked through the manufacturing facility carved into series. Workers scrambled around him, building weapons that wouldn't be finished in time to matter, but they built them anyway, because humans didn't know how to quit. Dr. Yuki Tanaka met him in the main lab. She looked terrible. Her eyes red from lack of sleep, her hair a mess, but she was smiling. It's ready, she said, gesturing to a device the size of a car. The harmonic resonator. When it detonates, it'll send a pulse through the quantum frequency the swarm uses to communicate. Their hive mind will tear itself apart. Webb studied the weapon. It looked simple, almost peaceful. Just a metal cylinder with glowing blue lines across its surface. This small thing could save humanity. How many do we need? He asked. The more the better. Each one increases the cascade effect. I'd recommend at least 50, spread throughout their fleet formation. And the delivery method? Yuki's smile faded. Ships, piloted ships, the resonators need to be placed precisely within their formation. Automated systems won't work, because the swarm will destroy drones before they get close. They need human pilots to react and adapt. Webb had known this was coming, but hearing it still hurt. 50 ships, 50 crews, all volunteers for a mission with no return. I'll lead it personally, he said. Sir, you're needed here to coordinate the defense. No, Webb replied firmly. I'm needed there to make sure this works. I won't ask people to die for a plan I'm not willing to die for myself. Yuki wanted to argue, but she saw the look in his eyes and knew it was pointless. Instead, she handed him a data pad. These are the specifications. Every captain needs to understand exactly where to position their ship before detonation. If even one resonator is placed wrong, it could reduce the cascade effect by half. Webb took the pad and left without another word. He had a mission to plan. Catherine Chen stood in the communications center on Earth, listening to reports from across the galaxy. The news was grim. The elder races had completed their evacuation to the core. They were building defensive stations, preparing for the swarm to eventually reach them. They had written off the outer rim completely, but something unexpected was happening. "Ambassador, we're receiving a transmission from the Torvian Collective," said one of her aides. "They're requesting permission to send ships to join our defense." Catherine frowned. The Torvians were a young species, only in space for 500 years. The Council had told them to evacuate. Put them through. A face appeared on screen. The Torvian had gray skin and large black eyes. He looked nervous but determined. "Ambassador Chen, my name is Vec. I speak for 300 ships that refuse to run. Our leaders ordered us to evacuate. We told them no. Why?" Catherine asked. "Because we saw your message. Earth still stands." Those 3 words changed everything for us. "We thought we had to run because the elders said so. But you showed us another option. If humans can fight, so can we." Catherine felt tears in her eyes. She wiped them away quickly. "Your ships are welcome, Vec, but you need to understand. We're probably going to lose. The math says we can't win. Then we'll lose together," Vec replied. "That's better than living as cowards." The transmission ended. Catherine sat down heavily in her chair. 300 ships wouldn't change the outcome, but they changed something more important. They proved that courage was contagious. Over the next week, more species joined them. The Kelvin sent 100 ships. The Praeth sent 50. Even some individuals from the elder races defied their governments and came to fight. By the time Operation Last Dawn was ready to launch, the human fleet had grown by 1,000 ships. It still wasn't enough to win, but it was enough to matter. Admiral Webb stood in the briefing room looking at 50 captains. These were the volunteers, the ones who had chosen to deliver the resonators. They came from every human colony, every walk of life. Some were old soldiers like him. Some were young and should have had their whole lives ahead of them. "You all know the mission," Webb said. "We punch through the swarm's outer defense. We position our ships according to Dr. Tanaka's specifications. We detonate the resonator simultaneously. And we die." No one flinched. They had all accepted death before entering this room. "I want you to know," Webb continued, "that what we're doing here will be remembered forever. Long after we're gone, people will tell stories about the 50 ships that saved humanity. Children will learn your names. You will never be forgotten." A young captain in the back raised her hand. "Sir, with respect, we don't care about being remembered. We care about Earth surviving. We care about our families living." "That's enough," Webb nodded. She was right. Heroes didn't fight for glory. They fought for the people they loved. "Record your final messages," he ordered. "We launch in 12 hours, the captains dispersed." Webb made his way to his quarters and sat down in front of a camera. He had no family left, no wife or children. But he recorded a message anyway, addressed to humanity itself. "My name is Admiral Marcus Webb. In 12 hours, I'm going to die. I'm going to die because I believe in something bigger than myself. I believe that some things are worth fighting for, even when the fight seems impossible. I believe that courage matters more than calculations. And I believe that humanity, despite all our flaws, is worth saving." He paused, thinking about what else to say. "The elder races told us to run. They said fighting was illogical. Maybe they're right. Maybe we should have evacuated and preserved what we could. But humans don't work that way. We don't abandon our homes. We don't leave our people behind. And we sure as hell don't bow to the darkness. So here's my message to the galaxy. Watch what happens next. Watch what humans can do when we're pushed to the edge. Watch us face the impossible and refuse to blink. And remember this moment when you wonder whether courage still exists in the universe." He ended the recording and sent it to the communications center. Catherine would know what to do with it. The 12 hours passed too quickly. Webb stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Indomitable, and watched the volunteer fleet form up around him. 50 ships against 300,000. The math was laughable, but math had never stopped humans before. "All ships report ready, sir," Lieutenant Chen said. Webb looked at his crew. They were all young, all volunteers. They should have been home with their families. Instead, they were here, ready to die for strangers they would never meet. "Then let's begin," Webb said. "Operation Last Dawn is go. All ships jump in 30 seconds. He broadcast his final words on an open channel, knowing the swarm would hear them. "This is Admiral Marcus Webb of Earth. You came to our home thinking we would be easy prey. You're about to learn that humans don't die quietly. Come and face us. Come and see what happens when you threaten everything we love." The fleet jumped into dark space. Ahead of them, the swarm waited. The final battle had begun. The Void Swarm detected the human fleet the moment they emerged from dark space. 50 ships, insignificant by any calculation. The hive mind processed this information in microseconds and determined these vessels posed no threat. The swarm continued its advance toward Earth. That was their first mistake. "All ships, spread formation," Admiral Webb commanded. "Remember, we need to reach the heart of their fleet. Whatever it takes, don't stop moving forward." The Indomitable led the charge, her engines burning at maximum. Around Webb, the other 49 ships scattered like seeds in the wind, each one heading for their designated position in the swarm's formation. The bioships reacted immediately. Thousands of them broke from the main fleet to intercept. They fired weapons that dissolved matter at the atomic level. They released swarms of smaller organisms that could eat through ship hulls in seconds. The human ships died. The destroyer Valiant was the first to fall. Her shields collapsed under sustained fire and biomatter consumed her hull. But before she died, Captain Sarah Martinez released every missile in her arsenal. The missiles weren't aimed at bioships. They were aimed at creating a path for the ships behind her. "Valiant is down," Lieutenant Chen reported, her voice hollow. "But she cleared Sector 7. "Mark her position," Webb said. "Make sure everyone knows she made it. This was the plan." Each ship was a piece in a larger strategy. Some would die creating openings. Some would die drawing fire. Some would die delivering the resonators. They all mattered. The cruiser Thunder fell next, then the frigate Morning Star. Each death bought seconds for the others. Each sacrifice carved a path deeper into the swarm. Webb watched the tactical display as his fleet disappeared ship by ship. 20 ships left, then 15, then 10. The swarm was learning human tactics now, adapting their response. They sent more bioships to intercept, created kill zones designed to trap the remaining vessels. But humans adapted too. "All remaining ships, execute pattern Delta," Webb ordered. "And remember, we only need to get the resonators in position. The ships don't have to survive once that's done." Pattern Delta was simple. Kamikaze attacks designed to break through at any cost. The remaining ships stopped trying to survive and focused only on reaching their target coordinates. The battleship Relentless rammed 3 bioships out of her path and kept flying forward on damaged engines. She reached position 12, dropped her resonator and detonated it before the swarm could destroy her. The explosion took out 50 bioships and created a cascade of quantum disruption. The swarm felt it. For the first time in their existence, the hive mind experienced something like pain. The quantum frequency that connected them flickered. "Resonator 12 is active," Dr. Tanaka reported from Earth. She was watching the data streams with shaking hands. "Cascade effect is beginning. We need more detonations to sustain it." 5 more ships reached their positions and detonated their resonators. The quantum disruption spread through the swarm like cracks in glass. Bioships began firing at random, their coordination breaking down. Some attacked each other in confusion. "It's working," Catherine Chen whispered from her command center. "My God, it's actually working." But 20 ships were still gone and only 15 resonators had detonated. They needed at least 30 for the cascade to become permanent. Maybe 50 to guarantee the swarm's destruction. Admiral Webb looked at his tactical display. 5 ships left, including the Indomitable. They were deeper in the swarm than any human had ever gone. Bioships surrounded them on all sides. "All ships, final push," he commanded. "Get those resonators in position no matter what." The destroyer Phoenix went next, her captain deliberately flying into a cluster of bioships to clear a path. She took 17 enemy vessels with her when her resonator detonated. The frigate Defiance followed, her crew singing the old battle hymn as they flew. 23 bioships died in her explosion. Then it was just 3 ships, Webb and 2 others. "Sir, the carrier Horizon is reporting critical damage," Lieutenant Chen said. "Captain Rodriguez says she can't make it to her position." Webb pulled up Rodriguez's coordinates. She was supposed to detonate at position 47, right at the edge of the swarm's core. If she couldn't reach it, the cascade effect might not penetrate deep enough. "Tell her to detonate where she is," Webb said. "Every resonator helps." "She's refusing, sir. She says she can make it if she has a distraction." Webb understood immediately. Rodriguez needed something to draw the bioships away from her path. She needed another ship to die for her. The Indomitable will provide cover, he said. Lieutenant Chen, prepare to engage all nearby bioships. Engineering, give me everything the engines have. Weapons, fire on my mark. Sir, if we do that we won't reach our position, Chen protested. The Indomitable's position doesn't matter anymore, Webb replied. Rodriguez's does. Execute the order. The Indomitable turned hard to starboard and opened fire with every weapon she had. Missiles, railguns, energy beams, everything. The bioships swarmed toward her like insects drawn to light. Rodriguez flew past them, her damaged ship trailing atmosphere and debris. She wouldn't have made it without Webb's distraction. She reached position 47 and detonated. The cascade effect exploded outward. 27 resonators now active. The swarm's hive mind was screaming, breaking apart. Webb watched one more ship reach its position. The cruiser Last Hope, captained by his old friend Thomas Park. Park didn't say anything. He just saluted through the view screen and detonated. 28 resonators, the Indomitable was surrounded now. Bioships tore at her hull, pulled apart her armor plating. Crew sections decompressed. People died, but the ship kept flying forward deeper into the heart of darkness. All hands abandon ship, Webb ordered. Get to the escape pods. Sir, the pods won't survive in this environment, Chen said. I know. But I'm ordering you anyway. That's a direct command, Lieutenant. Chen looked at him for a long moment. Then she saluted. It's been an honor serving with you, sir. The honor was mine. The crew evacuated. Most of the pods were destroyed immediately, but some made it out of the immediate combat zone. Maybe a few would survive long enough to be rescued. Webb hoped so. He was alone on the bridge now. Just him and a dying ship in the darkness pressing in from all sides. The Indomitable wouldn't make it to her designated position. She was too damaged, too slow. But Webb realized he didn't need to reach that exact spot. He just needed to get deep enough. He redirected all remaining power to the engines and aimed straight for the largest concentration of bioships. They were clustered around something massive, something that pulsed with the same quantum frequency as the hive mind. The swarm's core organism. The heart of the darkness itself. This is Admiral Marcus Webb, he said into the comm, knowing his words would be recorded and broadcast. I want the galaxy to hear this.
Humanity doesn't bow.
We don't break, and we sure as hell don't run from the dark. We bring a light. The Indomitable struck the core organism at ramming speed. Webb detonated the resonator. The explosion was massive, tearing through space itself. 29 resonators active. The quantum cascade became unstoppable. The swarm's hive mind shattered like glass. 300,000 bioships suddenly found themselves alone, confused, cut off from the consciousness that had guided them. They began to flee, scattering in every direction. On Earth, Dr. Yuki Tanaka watched the data and started crying. They had won. They had actually won. The silence after the battle was strange. For months, humanity had lived with the sound of war, the constant alerts, the endless broadcasts of positions and losses. Now there was only quiet. Catherine Chen stood at the viewport of the orbital station above Earth, looking down at her home world. Fires burned across 3 continents where bioships had crashed. The atmosphere was thick with debris. Entire cities had been evacuated. 2.3 billion people were dead, but Earth still lived. Ambassador, we're receiving transmissions from across the galaxy. Her aide reported. Everyone wants to talk to you. Catherine closed her eyes. She didn't want to talk to anyone right now. She wanted to mourn. She wanted to scream. She wanted to find Admiral Webb and tell him he was a hero even though he was gone. But duty called. Put them through, she said. The first transmission was from the Galactic Council. The Vrel appeared on screen, its crystalline form shimmering with colors Catherine had never seen before. It took her a moment to realize the creature was ashamed. Ambassador Chen, it said, the Council wishes to extend its deepest apologies. Our calculations were wrong. We believed the swarm could not be defeated. Your calculations weren't wrong, Catherine replied coldly. They just didn't account for courage, or sacrifice, or people who refuse to give up. We would like to offer Earth full membership restoration in the Council, along with technology transfers, resource aid, and reparations for our abandonment. Catherine laughed. It was not a kind sound. You abandoned us when we needed you. You left billions to die because your math said it was logical. And now that we've won, now that we've paid in blood for survival, you want to be friends again? The Vrel was silent. For the first time in 50,000 years, the elder races had no response. "Here's my answer," Catherine continued. "Earth rejects your offer. We don't want your council. We don't want your technology. We'll rebuild on our own terms. Ambassador, please reconsider. Without the council's support, recovery will take decades longer." "Good," Catherine said. "We'll spend those decades remembering who stood with us and who ran away. Don't contact us again unless you're ready to apologize to every family that lost someone while you hid in your core worlds." She cut the transmission. Over the next weeks, more messages arrived. The Torvians who had fought alongside humans wanted to formalize an alliance. The Kelvin and Praith proposed a new organization, separate from the council. Even some elder races, the younger members of their species who had defied orders to fight, requested asylum on human worlds. Catherine met with them all. Slowly an idea formed. "We're creating something new," she announced in a broadcast to the Outer Rim. The Outer Rim Coalition, a union of species who refuse to abandon each other. No elder races in charge, no calculations deciding who deserves to live. Just worlds standing together. The response was overwhelming. Within a month, 30 species had joined. Within a year, that number reached 100. The Galactic Council watched nervously from their core worlds. They had ruled the galaxy for 50,000 years. Now their authority was crumbling, undermined by a species they had written off as too primitive to matter. Dr. Yuki Tanaka stood in the memorial hall on Earth, looking at the wall of names. Every person who had died in the war was listed here. 50,000 names from the volunteer fleet alone, millions more from the defense forces, billions from the worlds that couldn't be protected in time. She found Admiral Webb's name near the center. Someone had carved his final words beneath it. "Humanity doesn't bow. We don't break. And we sure as hell don't run. I miss you, Marcus," she whispered. Yuki had aged 10 years in the last few months. Her hair was completely gray now. She walked with a cane from an injury sustained when her lab was hit during the battle. But she was alive and she had work to do. The Webb Institute for Xenobiological Defense had been her idea. A research center dedicated to studying threats like the swarm, to finding weaknesses before they reached the galaxy. It was funded by the Outer Rim Coalition and staffed by scientists from 20 different species. They had already discovered something interesting. The swarm hadn't been destroyed, just scattered. The bioships were fleeing back to dark space, but they were still alive. Someday they might regroup. Humanity needed to be ready. "Dr. Tanaka, your lecture starts in 10 minutes, her assistant reminded her. Yuki nodded and made her way to the auditorium. It was filled with students, mostly humans, but some from other species. They were all so young, barely old enough to remember the war. "Today we're going to discuss the Battle of Neptune," she began. "Can anyone tell me why Admiral Peterson's stand at Mars was important?" A young woman in the front row raised her hand. "Because he bought Earth 3 weeks to prepare defenses." "Correct. And what did those 3 weeks cost?" 80 ships and 15,000 lives. "Exactly," Yuki said. "Remember this lesson. Every victory has a price. Every choice matters. Admiral Peterson could have retreated. The math said his fleet would be destroyed whether he fought or ran, but he chose to fight anyway, and that choice saved billions." She continued the lecture, walking the students through the entire war. The sacrifices, the strategies, the moments when everything could have fallen apart. These students would be the next generation of defenders. They needed to understand what courage looked like. After class, she returned to her office and found a message waiting. It was from Catherine Chen. "Yuki, the council is asking for a meeting again. They want to discuss mutual cooperation. Should I even bother responding?" Yuki thought about it for a moment, then typed her reply. "Tell them we'll consider it in 50,000 years. See how they like being ignored." 50 years passed. Catherine Chen was dead now, buried with full honors next to the memorial wall. Dr. Yuki Tanaka had died 3 years after her. Admiral Webb's name had become legendary, spoken in the same breath as history's greatest heroes. But humanity endured. The Outer Rim Coalition had grown into the largest political force in the galaxy. Their ships patrolled the borders, ensuring no world was ever abandoned again. Their scientists pushed the boundaries of knowledge. Their diplomats negotiated with the elder races from a position of strength. The Galactic Council still existed, but it was a shadow of its former power. 3 of the elder races had been overthrown by their own people, replaced with governments that valued courage over calculations. A young ensign stood on the bridge of the battleship Indomitable II, looking out at the stars. The ship was named after Webb's flagship, a reminder of the sacrifice that had saved the galaxy. "Ensign, we're receiving a distress call from the Helion sector," the captain said. "Pirates attacking a civilian convoy. Should we request permission from command before responding?" The ensign asked. The captain smiled. "Ensign, what's the first rule of the Outer Rim Coalition?" The ensign stood straighter. "No one gets left behind, sir." "That's right. Set course for Helion, maximum speed." The Indomitable II jumped into dark space. Somewhere in the void, the spirit of Marcus Webb smiled. On Earth, tourists visited the memorial hall by the millions. They read the names on the wall and listened to recordings of the final broadcasts. They learned about the species that had been abandoned and chose to fight. They saw the price of survival written in stone and metal. At the center of the hall stood a statue. Admiral Webb, standing with his hand raised as if giving an order. At the base, his final words were carved for all to see. "Humanity doesn't bow. We don't break. And we sure as hell don't run." Beneath that, a new inscription had been added, words that had become the motto of the Outer Rim Coalition, spoken by every member species in their own language. "They abandoned us to die. We chose to live." The galaxy had learned its lesson. Courage was not a calculation. Hope was not illogical. And when the darkness came, the only way to survive was to face it head-on. Humanity had taught them that, and the galaxy would never forget. In the deepest reaches of space, beyond even the outer rim, something stirred. The scattered remnants of the void swarm were slowly finding each other again. They were learning, adapting, preparing for another attempt. But this time, they would not face a galaxy that ran and hid. They would face a galaxy that had learned to fight. And at the front of that fight would be humans, with their foolish courage and their stubborn refusal to accept the impossible. The darkness was coming again. But so was the light. And this time, the light was ready.